at least for me, it's not a good sign.
Good sign.
Yeah, it's not a good sign because it means that they don't value people.
What we hope to encourage is to realize these signs earlier so you can get out earlier. So you're not like, oh, let's just do another 6 months. let's just hold on for another 6 months. Maybe it will get better. And then especially
Welcome to the Asian Suit Podcast. This is your co-host Jules.
And this is your co-host Rox.
The Asian Suit Podcast is your cozy space on the internet where we share and discover real stories about one another.
We chat about a range of topics from career, mental health, relationships, and much more.
Come sit with us
and get nourished.
I'm very excited to talk about today's topic, actually.
Yes, me too. I feel like we can all relate to it.
Yes.
And yeah.
We haven't chatted about careers, I think, since episode 2, actually, on career change.
Yeah.
That's actually our most popular episode for anyone who was curious.
I know, surprisingly, because we're not, calling ourselves a careers podcast or anything. But yeah, interestingly, that was the highest performing one. Most listens.
And one we get most feedback on as well. A lot of people reach out saying, oh, listen to the career change episode and I really, it really helped me with what I'm going through. So it's just really nice to be able to revisit this topic.
Yeah.
And for any of our listeners who might be new, Rox and I are new friends and we actually...
Are we new friends now? We've been friends... closer friends for a year now,
but it's more interesting.
Okay,
we sound more interesting.
You're still new. We don't know everything about each other.
We'll be new forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're new friends and we basically connected on LinkedIn because I felt like Rox had a similar sort of career path / change experience to me, and that's how we initially connected.
Yeah.
So I always feel like we always do talk about careers, not just on the podcast, but on our day-to-day.
Yeah, when we check in or, even when we meet, how's work going? It is such a big part of life. If you do work full time, working is a big part and it affects everything, right? Yeah, whether it's good, it's bad, it's cool or whatever, but it's really important.
It's a huge part of our lives.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of people in Sydney, Asian people as well, I feel work is a big, part of our lives. So we can't not talk about it.
Today, we really wanted to focus on...
Oh, yeah. So as you clicked in the title, signs that you need to quit your job and GTFO. ASAP.
Get out.
Get out. Yes.
Soon. Yeah.
It's almost like a letter to our younger selves too, isn't it, Rox?
Yes. There's been times when we reflected about this, that we were in jobs or we just asked each other, actually. Julie just asked me, do you regret quitting any of your last jobs? And I said, no. And now my only regret is not quitting a bit earlier or, thinking that I needed to spend more time at a certain role, feeling miserable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can both relate. We've had a few resignations in our time.
Yes. And I feel like, if you are similar to us in the way that we try really hard to make things work and you're a bit of a perfectionist and you give things a second chance, third chance, and we just sort of hold on to it, hoping that it will work out. If you're similar to us, this might be good. If you're already a good quitter, you don't really need to listen to this.
Yeah, if you're confident, you know your worth and you're a go-getter, you probably, not that we're not go-getters either, but it's just if you know that what you deserve, then yeah, this probably isn't for you. But you can probably relate. I don't know.
Yeah, you could.
A lot of people change roles. Yeah. I mean, you probably cannot relate if you've been at the same role forever and you're very happy. Then not role, but same company. I feel like it's unheard of.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel
it's rare.
Yeah.
In our millennial.
Yeah, at least in our
generation.
And the people around us, right?
Yeah.
Sign number 1, pay. I think we should talk about pay because pay is a big factor when it comes to whether you should stay or not stay at your job, or whether it's time to quit. Like, I mean, let's be real. We all think about it, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I think my tip here might be look on Glassdoor and see what your market rate is. Like that would be the first thing I would do. You know, when we were in our 20s, we didn't have that.
Yeah.
We didn't have that visibility and we didn't have that transparency. And it was a taboo topic to talk about salary. Like you had a vague idea. You knew that investment bankers or lawyers or doctors, they get paid well, but you don't really know how much. You know, it was a very vague figure. I just knew they got paid more.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll be like, okay, well, I'm doing what I love. So no.
I'm not doing those professional jobs.
No.
Yeah.
It's good to have that visibility and understanding of what, you know, at least your role in your job, in your industry is getting paid.
It's okay if it's like your first role and you're like, okay, I just want this opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you know, because on Glassdoor or whatever, other platforms, it's like they have a range, right? So you kind of know that potentially I could get up there and say you want to gain the experience there, but then you know that the average is higher.
Yeah.
So yeah, pay is a huge one.
If anyone's thinking about a career change of some sort, you know, when you are looking at the salaries of your role on Glassdoor, also look at what other industries are paying, because that could be a factor, you know, as well. Like you might realize like, you know, working in a bank might pay like 30, 40 more K. And if you're somebody who values pay, then maybe working at a bank might be a really good fit for you. Or maybe you have a marketing job or a design role, but then you realize like a UX or product designer role in a tech company, it's like very transferable skills, but you get paid double, for example. Then it's like good to just have that understanding and to see like what, you know, how to maximize your skills, I guess.
Yeah. Because the same title or the same role at different places pay differently, right? Depending on what kind of company and industry it's in. And it also depends on what company and industry you would want to be in. So it really just depends. Another thing I would say is pay and the time you've been there. Like say you got the role, the pay was okay when you started. You were happy to have it when you started, but you're there for like a year or 2 years and nothing's really changed. Like it hasn't gone up much. Again, like progression or whatever. But if your pay is still like hasn't increased even by inflation rates, then I reckon just go. Because I had a role once where it didn't increase for 2 years, not even with like to follow the index. Yeah. And then I realized someone started later. So I'll just tell you my first ever job in fashion paid 35K a year, which is little. Okay. Considering my age, considering that was a while ago. I mean, that's probably like
25.
Yeah. It's not even 10 years ago. So it's not too long ago, but it's like 7 years ago. And then, okay, 35K, really low.
That is a bit of context. This is like
below average,
but also out of uni as well. You just got
my first full-time role.
Yeah, out of uni.
I had done retail before, but I feel like retail paid me more than that.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was ridiculous. So yeah, this girl started a year later than me and she got paid 38 just because the standard had risen, but my pay had risen by like $2,000 or something. Like it's something that was minuscule in comparison. I was like, what the hell? Like for some reason I had found out that she got that. She had started on that and I'm like, I'm getting out. Like I that's when I left.
Your starting pay also is really important.
Yeah.
Like my story, my little story is when I started my first sort of role, I guess, in digital marketing, I got a pay bump like every 6 months. So I felt like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
But then now I reflect on it, my starting rate was so low.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So by the time I worked there for 2 years, I'm finally on a decent salary.
Yeah.
But then I think about it now, I'm like, I probably could have started on the salary that I ended with
but they just
from the
gave
beginning.
You a little bit like they're doing so much, but it was a lie.
Yes. Yeah. So pay is one. So what's the takeaway there? It's like just look at your market rate and make sure that you're at least getting like, you know, the median of that.
Yeah.
And then my other tip is look at other roles similar to your role or same role but different industry and see what they're getting paid. Because then you don't want to think that, oh, just because my agency role pays me this is how everyone pays me. It's not. If you have that same role in a in-house bigger company, you could get paid way more.
What you get paid is why you are there. The reason why you're working is because you get paid. So it is very important. And even sometimes when you're like in that state, you're like, oh, it's okay. Like, I guess they gave me the opportunity, so I have to keep going and I need to pay the bills. Like, it's not that bad. Like, if you're thinking like that, it's not good already.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in
mindset.
that mindset already, like, oh, it's not too bad. It's all right.
Yeah.
It's okay for now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, they didn't increase it this time. Like, I guess I'll stay for another 6 months and see. It's already bad.
Yeah.
Just start applying.
Yeah. Speaking from our
Speaking from experience.
Talking to 20-something-year-old Rox and Jules.
Yeah.
Sign number 2, your manager isn't good. And you might not even realize your manager isn't good.
You might not know.
You might not even know. Sometimes you just like think, oh, they're just like that, or that's their
just how it is.
personality.
Yeah.
Or,
what can I expect?
well, it's because I'm not good enough. Like,
they're too busy.
okay, let's give some tips on like what is like a benchmark, the benchmark of a good manager.
Now they need to check in with you. They need to like give you that time. If this is a people manager anyway, and check in with you, not just saying, where's your work? Or like, what have you done?
What's
or
the status update?
This is, or how did that go? Or something. Like actually human interaction check in. I know like it's a bit fluffy to just be like, oh, hey, how was your weekend? Blah, blah, blah. Like it's a bit small talky, but someone that like genuinely gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, I think you can tell eventually, like that takes time to build. But if they are giving you time to chat, even if it's once a month, if they're so busy, or once every fortnight, but just something that is, you know, they don't need to get too personal into your life or anything, but it's just that, just that communication and someone you feel safe to share any concerns with, I feel like is really important now.
Yeah.
When you're with a manager and you're like, oh, I'm too scared to mention something, or I'm worried about like, not good.
That's not good. How can you do your best work? Like if something bad comes up, you're going to feel so alone because you don't have somebody to actually reach out to and confide in. I don't know if I have anything to add to that. You said it so well. I was just like, yes, nodding. Were any of you guys nodding, listening to Rox?
I guess another one is like not, empower a manager that empowers you, gives you autonomy and doesn't like check in all the time, but is there when you need them. Like when you need, some support, they're there.
Yeah.
I think that's the best, but it definitely takes a few, you don't know. How about some examples of bad managers?
Bad managers. I think I was going to say good example was like trust. So I guess the opposite is like when there's no trust.
Okay, yeah.
When they can't trust you and you can't trust them. And so it's like, how can you, it's like you're always going to be like almost micromanaging, maybe you're micromanaging them or they're micromanaging you. So I think when there's no trust there, that's a bad sign or bad manager. When you said empower, I really felt that. I love that you mentioned that because a bad manager would actually pick out your flaws and say, you actually need to work on this, this, and this.
Like not in a way that's like helping you.
Yeah.
Like in a way that makes you feel bad.
Yeah.
But if there's pointing it out like, oh, I think I want to help you grow in this area. What can I do to support you to be better at presentations? Maybe, do you want to, present a few times in the meetings or something? If it's something like that, then great. Good manager. But if it's something like, oh, I don't think your, time management is that good lately or what's been going on. Like, I don't know. If it's something like that, then it's like, oh. I
feel like that's almost old school, right? Like it's very like mum or school teacher vibes. Like this area is dropping off. It's a bit of
Have you ever had that? Like a manager like that?
I've had a manager tell me that, like say all these things like, oh, you're doing great, this, this, this. but you could be more invested in like my discipline. So like and he compared me with another colleague who reads lots of articles about, you know, how she always reads up, you know, on industry trends. And
why are you comparing me?
Yeah. And I was just like, what?
Oh.
So I would think, okay, I need to read more articles. Like, you know, when you're young, you just take
That's
their
offensive,
word, right?
Yeah.
But now in hindsight, I'm like,
why would you
just,
put
it's almost
me
like,
against the other person?
Exactly. And it's almost like they're saying a negative thing just because they have to. You know what I mean?
They don't have to though.
They don't have to. But yeah, that was
That's
just
bad.
Yeah. Oh, another bad manager is if they don't listen. I mean, this is like across all relationships, like friendships, romantic, and work relationships. Like, I'll give you an example. I was really overwhelmed in this one role, and rather than taking my word and saying like, okay, you're overwhelmed, like, it's like, okay, well, but you're like this and this, so
why are you overwhelmed?
Yeah, no, not why are you overwhelmed, but it was more like me not managing things properly. But then when I look back at it now, I'm like, I was way overworked. It's like they can't, and it's like they don't listen and they just think it's all you. And it's almost like they refuse to take that work off your plate. Yeah. So if you have a bad manager, it's almost like it's a sign to quit because
whatever
they're not going to have your back.
Isn't going to be, you can't change them. And if you're under them, then good luck.
Yeah. They're going to be a huge blocker for you. Of course, there are ways to manage up, but is it really worth it?
I think it's also just like, I heard from a colleague once who was also a manager, and I just thought she was so good because she was newly managing a team, but she really believed in managing the manager. Kind of, you know, just because you're a manager, you're still human. Like, you need feedback too. It's like two-way feedback. It's like, how can I help you? That's why I really like the idea of like servant leadership, which is kind of to do with my role a little bit, but it's more like helping the team and unblocking the team and like I said already, empowering the team. But it's more like, just a manager that really tries to help you, not a manager that's like, nitpicking or, you know, just too focused on certain things.
Yeah. So if you do have this kind of amazing manager, also know that you are super lucky. They're a rare breed, you know. It is really hard to find good leadership.
People aren't really, not all people are trained to be managers. So some people like don't even know that they're bad managers.
So this is almost like a sign that you might want to stay. If your manager is really good and is supporting you and is rooting for you, and, you know, that could be a huge
reason to stay.
Yeah. Thank you. Sign number 3. You're feeling anxious or really unhappy at work.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't know what to say. I'm just like,
I know what to say here. Okay.
Go for it.
So sometimes when you're feeling anxious and you're feeling unhappy, you think that, no, this is just me. I'm like such a negative person, or I'm weak. And you almost like don't listen to your feelings. But one of the biggest lessons I learned, you know, in my previous roles is that your feelings are absolutely valid. If you're feeling shit, then that is a reason. It's not something that you can block, and it's not a weakness. It's not about you. If you're feeling shit, that is a very, very valid point that you should not dismiss.
I'm unhappy with this job. Oh, I should leave. Like that's like the process of quitting, I feel. But what we hope to encourage is to realize these signs earlier so you can get out earlier. So you're not like, let's just do another 6 months. let's just hold on for another 6 months. Maybe it will get better. And then especially when managers lie to you and they're like, in 3 months, you get a pay rise. Like in 3 months when we do the restructuring. Oh, actually in another 3 months, that's when the annual review is. So that's when we can fix your pay. Oh, HR is just taking a while. I have to get this through like my boss's boss, and then I have finance approve it. So just another few months. That's fucking lies, dude. Like, I'm so mad right now because that's a lie. And I was already asking for this a year ago and it didn't happen. So I was so mad just now, but shit. But that's literally what happens and has happened before. And then it's like so much lying and distrust that you're like, even if they offer you more, then you're like, you broke my heart already. Like you broke my heart slowly and now I'm leaving you. Like finally.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing you can do anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, huge tangent, very passionate.
It was good. It was therapeutic for me to hear you say that. I feel like you've probably spoke for a lot of people just now.
Yeah.
So the feelings
are real.
They're real. They're not, it's not like you overthinking or anything like that. It's whatever you're feeling is totally valid.
Try not to let it drag on.
Sign number 4, structure and upper management. It's basically what you said. It's like, but if it comes from the structure and the upper management, if they don't have their shit together.
Like you can't change if a certain place is structured in a way that is hard for you to move or is hard for your manager to do anything for you. Even your manager wants to help you, but the structure is they have to go through all these other steps or something, then, what are you going to do? Like,
Yeah. So suss out the structure.
Another one to know before you start a job is just like a clear reporting line.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like a clear reporting line.
Okay, what does that mean for anyone who hasn't worked in corporate or they're just starting out?
Yeah, a clear reporting line like, I report to so-and-so and who else reports to this person? Like say you're in digital marketing and this is your manager. Who are your peers and what do they do? And does that make sense? Are there overlaps with other teams? Would you sometimes need to jump in and help? Like it's fine. I get it if it's a smaller company and you need to do a bit of everything, but it's just like, if the structure is weird, like, you also need to do half your role in this as well. But it's fine if you're reporting to the same person. But if they're like, part of your job has to report to another person, then that's like, why? Like,
that's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard reporting to more than one person. I can speak from experience.
Like it just doesn't make sense. Yeah. Just shows that they don't know how to set it up.
Yeah. Another one is like, look at your role and then see who you report to, like your team, see where the head of that team's experience lies. So like if you're in a discipline where for example, you're a writer, but your boss is like, doesn't know how to write, then how would they know if you're doing a good job or not? I don't know if that's structure, but you know what I mean?
It is.
Oh, is it
but that's just so ridiculous this
it's
happens. True. Like it happens.
This actually happens so much.
It's true. It
actually happens so much. Like
like that just doesn't make sense, right? Like that just doesn't make sense.
So like now when I look at who I report to, I like to see where their background lies because then it's easier. Like you'll be speaking the same language, and if your manager has no idea about your discipline, then you can ask them questions too, like in the interview, like. How would you know if I'm doing a good job and how can you help me develop my skills? Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that would only happen if you're at a level where you're a people leader and then like say, you're meant to be the expert and cover the whole, all of writing. But if your manager is just like, I don't know, like the CEO or something, then okay, I get it that you don't know how to write or yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. It's like if you have the ownership, they fully let you own it, then it's okay.
That stream and they don't need to review your writing. You just need to like kind of report, like say their content and marketing content, and they don't know anything, but they trust you to do all the writing.
Yeah.
Then fine. Yeah. Like I get it. But if it's not, then it's a bit weird.
Yeah. Another one is like if you're working for a company that doesn't value your work. So for example, if you're a developer, like a software engineer or a web developer, but you're working for a design agency, like it might be fine. Like it could be really, really good, but it's good to look at the structure. It's like, how would this design agency value development? If it's like a design driven company. So it's good to see like, what's like their main thing. Like for me, I worked in a SEO agency. So as an SEO person, like it was good because there was lots of other SEOs and you can bounce ideas. But if you're like a designer in an SEO company, design's going to come second or third or fourth.
Oh, you're going to be quite like alone as well, like your team smaller or like, So
you could be like an afterthought. Design's an afterthought.
Yeah, you're not the main.
You're not the main. Yeah. Even though your skills might be freaking sick, it's hard to be acknowledged if, you know, you're working for a company that doesn't value design, for example.
First.
Yeah. So that's another one with structure, I would say. Sign number 5, work-life balance. Love this one.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah. Do you have work-life balance? I mean, are you doing late night calls?
Not anymore. Yeah, I used to, but I think that was a big driver for like finding a role in Australia that gave me work-life balance. So yeah, I guess also after burning out or like working overtime, like I don't know, I just don't have the energy for it anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do value a workplace that also values work-life balance. Yeah.
I'd also like to add that if you're young and you have the energy, you can sacrifice a little bit of work-life balance.
Yeah.
If the trade-off is something greater. Like if you know there's something good around the corner, then sacrificing a little bit of work-life balance, like in my opinion, it can be worth it.
Yeah.
So if you just crunch a little bit now, you know that
it's worth it.
You know, why not? Like if that's the sacrifice you're willing to make, it might be worthwhile. But if we're not even talking about this, like
if there's no reward,
and you're just
like
grinding for no reason, if there's no goal, you know, there's no like, you're just doing it because you feel like you have to, then it's time to question whether this workplace values you really.
Yeah.
You're just going to burn out. Like we've all heard of the great resignation, quiet quitting and all that. Like people are burning out more than ever. And so if you have a company that doesn't value your well-being, there are so many companies out there that do value work-life balance, right? Like mental health days off or summer Fridays or
they may have that, but that also could just be for show.
That's true.
When it comes down to actual work or your actual team, depending on the team as well, like if there's all this stuff, like, you know, there's all these benefits, but you're literally there every day, every night, like then it's still a lie. It's still bullshit. Yeah. If it's not worth it, unless your boss is like, whoa, and then, you know, you're feeling really satisfied doing a lot more hours and you're happy and you feel like it's really, you know, helping the company and you want to, that's what you want to do to impress your bosses and move on to the next thing, and you have some certain goals in mind, then sure, like, you know, because some people go into a role and they're like, you know, I'm going to like increase sales by this much and then I can take that with me in my next role, something, right? Like if you had a goal to change something or make something better and that you really wanted that to happen, then I get it. Like I get it. Or you want to build a team and, you know, you want to work harder at that. I get it. If it benefits you in a way that's helpful for your career, that's good. But if it's just your boss telling you to, you know, crunch something out, it's like, that's exactly right. Like if you're just doing it because you feel like you should, that's a sign like something's a bit off there. But if, you know, as Rox said, like there are some personal goals involved and you know it's worth it for a bigger goal later down the track, it's worth it. Right? Yes.
Yeah, it's worth
maybe. Yes.
At least for as long as you know.
As long as you know.
Yeah. Oh, another one is like, what system or process do they have in place to make sure that you're not overworked? Like some companies, they just pile work on. And so when you're like at 3 times capacity, it's like, number one,
how do you say no?
How do you say no? Number 2, how does management have visibility over this? And number 3, like, what are they going to do about it? Like, you know?
It's almost like there's no processes to help you, and also that's management too, and the company structure and how they operate. It's just not, you know, And usually in a place like that, the whole team's not happy, right? Like the whole team's kind of like, oh, things just keep piling in and there's no way to say no. You just like deliver. And it's hard because like whether it's personal or not, it's almost like people are only staying back because they have to or because they should, right? Or if it's the culture.
Or as you said, it's a personal goal. Like they have this goal that they want to meet for their next role.
Yeah.
So they're like, they know it's a short-term thing. I just
It's
need to
hard
crunch.
to know though.
Yeah, you don't know.
How do you know?
You don't know. Values. So values, I think, is really important because this is a really good way to see if you align with this company. And if you know what your values are and you know what the company's values are, it's a quick way to see if it's a right match and maybe whether it's time to leave. So for example, if you know that your company really values hustle culture, but you value work-life balance and well-being, there's a mismatch there. Mismatch. Yeah. Another example, maybe you value wealth. That's a value. And they pay you peanuts.
Yeah.
Mismatch.
Yeah. You have to have similar values to make it work.
So a quick tip would be like just Google values, list of values, pick out like 3 that resonate with you and see if that aligns with your company's values. It might not even be your company values. It could even be like your team values. Like if your team really values like getting things done on time, but you want to do things at your own pace, for example, then there's a friction there already.
Yeah. Like there are definitely roles that are more deadline heavy or, you know, and then there are roles that are more, you know, there's more freedom. So yeah, definitely. Yeah. Think about your own values first as well. Yeah.
Okay. Next one. Belonging in a team. The sense of belonging in a team.
Yeah.
So if you don't have that,
I think that's a huge one. Like if I feel like I don't belong or if I feel like I'm a random person, like there's been moments where management isn't great, pay isn't great, work isn't great, but because I had a great team or that, you know, we were all kind of like going through shit together and you feel like they're your buddies and you all understand what's happening and you're all kind of like going through this shit together, then you still feel like you have some not meaning, but do you know what I mean? You still feel like
there's a reason to stay.
Some like, oh, you know, at least I have you guys to vent to or chat to. We're all going through the same thing. You get me. They understand. Like it just feels a lot more easy to get through.
Yeah.
Whereas if you feel alone, you're going through this by yourself, you don't know what's going on. You don't, you know, even get along with people.
You're never in the loop. You always find things out like at the end.
Yeah. Then there's like literally, that's probably one of the worst feelings. Probably worse than the other things I feel.
I fully agree with you. I mean, it's interesting. This is why Rox and I get along. It's the same. I feel like maybe for someone else it might not matter as much. I don't know. But for me, I 100% agree with you. Especially like if you're working in a team, it's like you're going to be doing stuff together a lot of the times. And if you don't gel with your team and you don't feel like you belong, then every day is just going to be a bit of a drag.
Yeah. I feel like the team is like the funnest part about work sometimes. Yeah. It's like, you know, you make your jokes, you know, you kind of have someone to chat to or someone who is, you know, if they're on holiday, you know, you're covering them, or if you're on holiday, they're covering you. Like, it's just nice. Whereas if you're at somewhere where you're like, shit, if I go and leave, no one's going to be doing this, like, or you have no support or it's just a support system. I'm a really big teams person, maybe.
Yeah, no, me too.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, 100%. So if you do have a good team, it might be a reason to stay. You know, people is everything. You spend so much time with your colleagues.
Yeah, because you actually, the actual work that you do is with these people. I think it makes a big difference.
100%. They say like, it's not work that's hard. It's the people that makes it hard, right? Yeah. So if your team and your people around you are hard, then yeah. Okay, so next one will be diversity. So this one I feel like ties in well with the one we just mentioned, sense of belonging in a team. You know, as women of color, right? Like if there's no diversity, even whether it's in your team or within your company, at least for me, it's not a good sign. Yeah, it's not a good sign because it means that they don't value people of color.
Or different, like even just women or...
Whether it's promotions or like career progressions, but also like, you know, if you're the only Asian person, right? I don't know, like at least for me, I feel like I want to know that they care about diversity. Like, I don't know, I feel this more and more as I get older. If there's no diversity, I'm like, it's almost like the values thing again. It's like mismatch your values. It's like you don't value people who look like me. I don't know. It could be an industry thing.
Yeah, it could be an industry thing, or I think the size of the company also. Like if it's a huge company and there's little diversity, I think, usually bigger companies have more diversity, but I think it goes back to the team and sense of belonging, because it's like if there's a good mix of different types of people, then it's like you feel like you belong because there's all types of people here and all sorts of people. But whereas if it's not, then you're like, oh, this is awkward. Right? Or if all management is, you know, men or 90%, well, which is hard because some industries it still is, but if there are those few female leaders that are still in, you're like, okay, there's a chance, but I don't know. It's still hard. I think it's still hard, a bit of a combo.
Yeah. I think before I would think like if there were no Asians in this company, I would think, oh, that's just how it is. Like, I would just accept it like that. But now I've come to a point where I'm like, actually, I want to work for a place that sees diversity as something that's important. And I think like that will be a huge consideration for my future jobs as well. So yeah, back to signs. Like if there's no diversity in your company or in your team and you're somebody of color, like, I don't know, for me, it's going to be hard.
I'm finding it hard to imagine a place like that, but I'm just imagining a place that's super small.
Right.
Or somewhere that isn't in the city. Or, you know, in the Sydney. But then I feel like, oh, there must be places that aren't that diverse. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
in
Pachinko, Solomon, he was like the only Asian guy.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like if you're the only person of color, then you're just always, I don't know, I'm generalizing here, but it's just harder. You can't be yourself.
Or maybe you can. Maybe you can.
Can you?
I don't know. Or just get in there, you know, get in there.
I mean, there has to be.
Like, I feel like sometimes it's just like, that might be more of a reason too. Maybe. If they're hiring you and you are Asian and there's not many in their company, that means maybe they're changing. Like maybe they're giving you that chance. And then,
I guess so. There's always going to be one first person.
Then maybe, then...
Okay, I got it.
Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. So if you're ready to be like a pioneer and you want to
get in there,
then be that first Asian person.
Get in there, like
or
intro
person of color. But if you're, you know, already pretty unhappy at your job, and we're talking about signs here.
Yeah, signs. Okay, fine. Yeah, signs.
Yeah.
And another sign is if there's high turnover. Okay, this is random. I just added it in there. But if a lot of people are leaving.
That's a really good one.
A lot of people are leaving. They're only there for a year and they leave.
No, less than a year.
Less than a year. People, you know, that's a huge sign.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
I think we're done with the signs.
Okay, we're done.
I mean, there's so many, like we can go on and on and on and on. But these are like from our experience and basically us talking to ourselves in our 20s.
But it's not all the signs combined. It could just be the pay. It could just be the manager. Or you're not fulfilled and you need to have a change. Like, I don't know.
Right? If you've resonated with like your current job, at least maybe 3 of these signs, like for example, pay's bad, manager's bad, team's bad.
Bad. Go. Get out ASAP. Yeah.
Maybe 3's a lot.
Maybe 2's already. 2 of these signs.
2
is already
and
enough.
above. 2 and above.
Plus.
Really think about, like start researching whether you're, you know, you can have better opportunities.
I also separately from the signs,
Mm-hmm.
it's always good to keep an open mind. It's always good to keep the door open.
Yeah.
You know, never say never. Like, there might be an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Someone might reach out to you. Like, there might be something out there that you haven't explored yet that could take your fancy. Like, just be aware, because companies change. People get made redundant.
Yeah.
Your job is not always for sure. Like, you need to be, like, if something happens, luckily it hasn't happened to me, but it has happened to some of my friends I know. Like, you just got to keep your eye out for things. Like, be ready to change your job. Don't get too like, oh, you know, everything's fine. Like, you know? Yeah.
Like, you think that the company
get let go.
Exactly. The company can let you go.
Yeah.
So
you're replaceable.
Don't forget that. Like, the company can drop you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So why can't you drop them tomorrow?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for somebody who's in a job that they're miserable, but they're like 1 or 2 months in?
Already miserable.
Yeah.
Must be pretty bad. Well, you should get out, because if you get out under probation, you can get out even quicker. You don't need notice.
Yeah, start applying probably
not so,
straight away.
Like, I don't think, if it's really a mismatch and you're miserable, I mean, you don't want to keep going.
Yeah.
I don't know. What about you?
I agree. Like, I think mental health is so important, and there's so much you can do. But if you're already miserable and you're a few months in, that already is a huge sign. Yeah. Right? Like,
but I get that sometimes. I know a lot of people, even in the past myself, it's like, it's not, you know, the best thing, but you're like, oh, I'll just do it for a year so it looks good on my resume, or, you know, I owe them a year. It's like, do you owe them a year? Like, how about yourself? Like, do you owe yourself your precious time and that year? Like, do you owe yourself better? That's what I need to remind myself as well. Sometimes when you think, oh yeah, I need to at least stay for another 6 months or stay for so however long, it's like, fair enough if like you're staying because there's some bonus. Like, is there a bonus that you're waiting for, like that they give out every year, or are you just staying and there's no bonus and you're just like, you think that's the right thing to do, but it's like, how about you? Because you're not thinking about, you're thinking like, oh, respectfully, I should stay because they gave me this opportunity, so I should give them that work. But actually, you owe yourself like, happiness and I agree. Know, a good job.
I agree.
Cool.
So if you're thinking about quitting,
if you're already thinking about it, it must be pretty bad.
Yeah, so. Right. Like, if you clicked into this episode, you know, thinking about quitting, that's already a sign.
Yeah. Tell us if you have any other signs. Share with us any quitting stories you have, or it's always really awkward to quit as well. You know, like when you're ready to quit, it's always awkward. I feel like it's one of the most awkward things to do. I hate, you know, like getting the letter ready. You're like, oh, how am I going to tell them? Like, but then once it's done and you have an end date and you're like, it's done. And it feels good after that.
Yeah.
But I feel like every role, you learn so much, even if, you know, you go through bad things. But you definitely, it adds to your experience for sure. So don't feel too shitty. Like it'll still add to who you are. So
don't forget that you always have a choice. Sometimes you feel like you don't. Yeah. Like you feel stuck. Like, do you feel stuck? The worst feeling. If you feel stuck, you're not stuck. Like, you have a choice. You do have a choice. Yeah. So really, really think about that.
Yeah. And another thing, keep going. Another thing is when you're working somewhere and you're there, you know, Monday to Friday, every day, that's your world. That's what you're stressed about. That's what is making you unhappy at the time, or you're feeling like you want to quit, or you're not sure about something. When you're in it, you don't realize, like, just really zoom out. This is just one job in one company, in this role, in this city, in this country. Like, it is a very small thing.
It is.
Like, there's 100%. So many companies out there. Yeah. There's so many jobs out there. There's so many new skills you could learn. There's so many different things you could do. Like, if you want to have a transition phase and go on a holiday, do it. If you want to, like, I don't know, I don't know, learn something random or like just do something completely different. I don't know, like teach skiing or I don't know if you have some other skill, like you don't have to do this 9 to 5 thing all the time. You can take a few months to just decompress, figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Something that my friend did to help herself zoom out is she actually, what she did was like, you know, your LinkedIn experience. So she copied that like on like a Figma file or whatever, like a document, like you can do it in Google Docs if you want, and then mapped out like what the future years will look like and what her future jobs will look like. So,
wow, I've never done that.
Yeah. So she showed me like this visual thing that she created, and because she was sort of at a cross paths. It's like, do I do this or this? And you could do this too. Like if you're at a job for 2-3 months and you're freaking miserable or whatever you think is like a short amount of time, really ask yourself, like zoom out, put it down in front of you and really ask yourself, this job you're in now, it says 3 months, but is it really going to affect your career path in the larger scheme of things?
So true.
Yes or no? No, so right?
True. You don't even need to put it in there. Like in the end,
take it out.
There's so many roles
Sabbatical.
Dude, I've taken so many stuff out. Like, yeah, like eventually there's things that don't matter and you can just take it out.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to.
You can take things out. You can even put things in. I recently put in this podcast in my LinkedIn.
Yeah, like it's real. Why not? And I think people sometimes might worry about like, oh, I had a gap, or what if they ask me about the gap? It's like, dude, you could be traveling. Like who cares these days? Like, I don't know.
It's your experience. It's your story. It's all about how you craft that story, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, don't cling on to the fact that you've been at a certain job for a few months. Yeah, if you got that role, it means you can get that same role somewhere else, right? Like you're qualified.
Yeah.
So don't forget that and just make the jump if you need to.
Yes.
And if you're happy in your role, I'm so happy for you.
I'm happy for you too.
And thanks for listening
this episode.